Okay, folks, here are the things on the table today. John Lewis, the intelligence agencies continuing to insult Trump. John Brennan, CIA, on Fox News yesterday. And something that's not getting a lot of attention that I think deserves a lot of attention, and I'm going to spend some time on it today. The Inspector's General report that was announced last week. We talked about it when it happened. The Inspector General of the Department of Defense has announced an investigation, but not of the Department of Justice. I'm sorry, the DOJ. They're going to look into Comey. They're going to look into the FBI, but they're not going to look into Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton in the airplane. You know, we talk about Trump's election being illegitimate. Hillary's nomination's what illegitimate is. She cheated poor old Bernie Sanders. They rigged the game against him. Her nomination is what is illegitimate. Trump's victory is entirely legitimate. I'll tell you what they're trying to do. My friend Andy McCarthy had the best description of this, and I'm going to use it because I couldn't come up with anything better. What is happening is that the left is attempting to engrave on this last election that the Russians stole it from the Democrats. The effort, it's not news to say that the Democrats are trying to construct this narrative where Trump's win and his transition and his presidency are illegitimate. But there's no pushback on this. Everything's being left up to Trump to handle. The Republicans are not pushing back on this as they should be, because this Inspector General investigation into the election and James Comey and the FBI, but not looking at the DOJ, it's classic what's happening here. You know, I saw, watching TV today, Obama is out saying that he regrets that he didn't have more impact on his party. Well, hell's bells, he sure as hell did. The Democrat Party has been decimated because of Barack Obama. What greater impact could he have had? The impact he had on the Democrat Party was to basically destroy it. It's not a national party. You know, John Lewis, I don't care who it is, there's nothing they can do to stop Trump if the Republicans stay unified. And that is an asterisk, obviously. But they don't have the votes. The Democrat Party lost over 1,200 seats beginning in 2010, the midterm elections. They've lost seats in state legislatures, governorships, town council, mayor. They have been decimated. At the state level, the Republican Party is running this country. The Democrat Party is being made to look like they're still viable by virtue of the media and what's going on in Washington with his attempt to delegitimize Trump and his election. But Obama destroyed everything he touched. We have been at war every day of his administration. You're aware of that? He got the Nobel Peace Prize in March of his first term, like 2 months in. We've been at war every day during his administration. We know what he's done to health care in America, what he's done via Obamacare. We've got 94 million Americans not working. We have an economic recession. We have uncontrollable immigration. And, you know, Trump is the one man fighting back on all of this, including John Lewis. Hey, look at what happened with John Lewis. Who is John Lewis, by the way? I wonder when I saw this, 2/3 of the American people may not know who he is. When you get right down to brass tacks, because what John Lewis had one thing happen to him that has made him a civil rights icon. And I'm going to dig deep into this today, too, with the help of Shelby Steele. He had I've been looking for a way for a long time to express a combination of opinion and feelings I have about the left and race. And I've gotten close, but I've never gotten to the point where I felt totally equipped and prepared to bring that opinion to the broadcast. Because when you start talking about this stuff, you better be precise, and you better say what you mean and not leave it open for any innuendo or misrepresentation, which you're going to do anyway. But for example, I'll tell you, just to show you what a tightrope this is going to be, what really spawned the latest effort on my part to dig into this was the media and all the fashion magazines saying that Michelle Obama has blown the lights out on First Lady fashion. There has never been a more fashionable First Lady than Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama rewrote what it is to be fashionable in the White House. Well, that's just flat out not true. It's just flat out. So why is it said? And that is the opinion, that is the thought, those are the feelings that I wish to share, because there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it that is found deep inside the bowels and intestines of liberalism. It's not just feel-goodism. It's not just pandering, although it's close to that, but it's worse than that. It's actually rooted in what is a great, great phrase, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And it's what the American left has done to every racial minority in this country, and especially to African Americans. And John Lewis is a shining, glaring example. John Lewis, I really was thinking, how many people, given the low information crowd, given history and the way it's taught, I really wonder how many people know. I mean, because here's John Lewis, because in Washington, they think everybody knows who he is. In Washington, the Democrats and the media think everybody knows who he is, and they also believe that everybody think that he is one of the greatest living civil rights icons ever. And so, because they think that, they think everybody in America must obviously think that. And I was asking, how many people even know who the guy is? What he is, folks. And Donald Trump, you can see what happens when pioneers go out and try to change things. Trump is taking the arrows on all kinds of things. This is what it looks like when you try to transform America and take power away from those who've had it forever. It's not pretty. It isn't going to be pretty. The people who are fearful of losing their power are not going to be peaceful and give it away. They're not going to let go of it. It's all they've got. It's all they know. It's how they define their self-worth. It's how they get their standard of living. And they're not going to let some upstart like Trump come in, even if he has a majority of the American people behind him, and just take it. So it's going to be a bloodbath. And we're living the bloodbath right now. We're in the midst of it, and it isn't going to go away. It's only going to intensify. And I'm here to predict to you that this week, you may think this crazy, but I am telling you that the Democrat Party and the American left still harbor hopes and a desire to prevent Trump from being sworn in. Now, that's crazy, Rush. It's absolutely crazy. Yes, it is. That's the point. It is crazy. They're mounting all these protests, and I'm going to make a prediction to you. These protests are going to fizzle, and it isn't going to be anywhere near the numbers of people showing up that you are being led to believe are going to show up. It's always this way. These people are the minority. They are not the majority. They got beat. They got snookered. They were defeated. They are not the majority of the country. They can't come to grips with that. They can't come to grips with the fact that somebody in their mind like Trump took it away from them. So they have not given up hope, desire, that they can do something that would stop Trump from being inaugurated. Now, they, in moments, and they are rare, of sanity for these people, they probably realize they can't do that. So the next thing is to just make it all as illegitimate as possible. And they're coming at it from every angle you can think of. This Inspector General investigation of Comey and the FBI, CIA director, this phony dossier that Bob Woodward of Watergate fame said it's garbage. It should never have been the subject of a briefing. It's total garbage. He said it on Fox News, so it's not been seen anywhere else. Carl Bernstein's out there saying, well, Woodward's a real star of my duo. How did I miss this? So Woodward is continuing to absorb all the fame and glory, and Bernstein's out there trying to figure out why it's eluded him. John Lewis, for those of you who don't know, is a Democrat Party hack. John Lewis was, in fact, beat upside the head, as he has described it. In fact, when Clarence Thomas was nominated by George H.W. Bush for the Supreme Court, John Lewis was one of many on the left that were beside themselves. He went to the floor of the House He's a congressman from Alabama, from Georgia, near the Atlanta area. And he went to the floor of the House, and he said, I have been beat. But I can impersonate him perfectly, but I'm not going to do that because that would be misunderstood. Because you can't mimic, you can't imitate. I mean, they can have Alec Baldwin out there all day on Saturday Night Live making fun of Trump, but you can't do that kind of thing to a liberal, particularly one they think is an icon. They'll come at you with charges of racism and bigotry and all this. But he went out there on the floor of the House and he said, I've been beat upside the head, but it doesn't mean I'm qualified to be on the Supreme Court. He went to the floor of the House once. He's been living off what happened to him in Selma for all of these years. But he has become, since nothing but a Democrat Party hack. He's nothing but a reliable, uber Democrat Party partisan who I don't believe has the moral authority that has been granted to him. And once again, we're back now to what I'm going to get into later with the help of Shelby Steele. But why does this happen? And it's all about liberalism and their icons and how they essentially try to shut down debate and permit otherwise morally unfit people to have moral authority and make statements usually against Republicans and or conservatives. John Lewis did not think George W. Bush presidency was legitimate and said so. And he's applauded, and he is held up and put on a pedestal as a great hero, one to whom we should all listen. He went to the floor of the House back during, it was in the 90s when the Republicans ran the House, and there was some budget bill. I forget what the legislation was, but John Lewis goes to the floor of the House and does a speech using words that were used in another famous speech about the Nazis. They're coming for our children, they're coming for our grandchildren, they're coming for our moms, they're coming for our dads, they're coming for... And he was equating the Republicans with the Nazis in World War II. And the left applauded, and what a great man. We need to listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. Simply because he's one of the remaining survivors of a protest march, Martin Luther King, across the Pettus Bridge in Selma. And if you look at how he has behaved since he was elected to Congress and throw out his claim to fame in the Civil Rights March, the guy's a Democrat Party hack. Some people have even described him as a fraud. John Hindrocker at Powerline. He's been coasting on his 50-year-old reputation for decades. Andrew Breitbart exposed Lewis as a liar when he claimed to have been subjected to racial epithets by a crowd outside the... Oh, yes. Remember the congressional black Caucasians and the left, prior to the vote on Obamacare, decided to march in front of the Capitol building because there were a bunch of Tea Party people there protesting the vote. So they marched, and they did it on purpose. When the march was over, Lewis said that he had been spat upon and called the N-word. And there was an investigation undertaken, and none of it happened. It didn't happen. Didn't matter. The left continued to report that it did in their effort to impugn and besmirch the Tea Party. Didn't happen. That's the kind of fraudulent stuff John Lewis has been engaging in. But you don't say this. Civil rights icon, untouchable. He's permitted to do anything. He's permitted to say anything and be granted senior statesman, elder statesman status, because this is one of the many things that we're up against that's wrong. Because any criticism of John Lewis or Barack Obama or anybody has been paralyzed by virtue of race and civil rights. I can take a break here, folks. Be back in just a second.